Hi, I'm Eric Johnson at Vanderbilt's Owen Graduate School of Management, and I'm here today with Darci Darnell. Darci is a senior partner at Bain. Welcome, Darci.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you lead the customer practice at Bain, and of course, that's a fascinating place. It's changing, a lot of things happening. Tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about the growth strategies and brand management and customer loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is very dynamic. Most companies talk about driving growth, sustaining growth. In our minds, you have to earn it. And you earn it by delivering value for your customers. And traditionally, value has been described as very rational. And where it's really moving is to an emotional or experiential place. And the companies that get that, they're the ones who actually earn growth.
Interesting. And you talk a lot about customer love, I think, is part of that emotion. What does customer love mean?
Yeah, well, I think we've now kind of post-pandemic are in a position where we can actually use an emotional term to describe a business concept. Customer love is simply adding value to your customers in a way that your competitors cannot copy, and doing it in a way that your customers then say, I'm delighted and I'm willing to tell others how good it is to do business with you.
That's great. One of the things that we've been noticing, I think, in our world is how globalization is really tilting in a different direction right now. A lot of conversations about decoupling and tearing kind of global things apart. What does that mean for global brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, most of the companies that we work with are global, and they're all wrestling with these issues. I think it has to be a combination of how do you take advantage of global scale, which is often in areas of your expertise, supply chain and procurement, et cetera, but be hyper-local in the way that you actually serve customers. And so while brands often have a global mindset in the way that they scale, they have to have a local way of interacting with customers. And so whether that's Lego or Coke, you name the global brand, they have to be thinking with their local teams, how do we take advantage of scale, but make sure we're talking to our consumers in this market in the way we want to. I'll give you an example. ESG is, all the conversation. In a global world, do all consumers actually think about those things in the same way? And the answer is they don't. We recently did research in China and in the rest of Asia that said, what does sustainability mean to you? And in Asia, a lot of that means it's healthy. It's good for my body. It's good for my family. They're not yet thinking about it's good for the world, which is very different than Europe. Quite different than the US and the rest of the Americas. And so it's an example of how a brand can take advantage of its global scale to create awareness, but as it's talking to the consumers locally, they've got to be more specific.
Does that necessarily add cost? I mean, if you're thinking about this as a global marketing head, does this, absolutely mean we're going to have to start spending more in different regions?
I think it's not more, it's smarter. Right. So how are you going to be on the world stage in certain events? Let's take the World Cup, which is happening as we speak. There's one thing about creating awareness of your brand at the World Cup. It's another thing to do performance marketing in a market to convince people to buy or to use your service. And so they have to be thinking about it at both levels. I think the companies that are good at it actually can reduce their cost, but they find out ways to test and learn so that they do it the right way.
Got it. So they find ways to leverage the scale and leverage that hyper locality or whatever you want to call it.
That's exactly right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, another one big trend that we're talking a lot about at Owen these days is the future of work. And so what does the future of work mean for you?
Yeah, it's it's so multifaceted, right? Because a lot of people think of future of work, it's about where am I located? Am I in the office? Am I at home? Am I hybrid? What does that mean? And those are certainly relevant and perhaps in the last couple of years, highly relevant conversations. But the future of work, I think, is moving from what do humans do and what can machines, data and technology do? And importantly, what's the interaction between the two? And so the future of work is about how do you mechanize your front line, your knowledge workers, so they have intimacy of the customer and they only do what humans can do. Because I think a lot of people in the future of work imagine an entirely digital environment when in fact humans have to train the models. They have to build the digital experiences. And in moments of crisis or need, they've got to be there for their customers. And so for us, future of work is about thinking customer need back and then saying what uniquely do the different elements of work need to be completed by who?
And this is a never-ending story in some sense, do you think? I mean,
Totally.
It's
100%.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was talking to someone about what should our children be studying? And everyone's like, oh, they should be studying computer science, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, so much of that is actually going to get mechanized. And so what your children should actually be studying is the things only humans can do, and being intuitive, leading others, influencing. Those are actually the skills that have always been important in work, but increasingly are going to be so because so much of the rest of it is going to get digitized or mechanized.
Well, one of the things I love about my job is I get to talk to lots of folks like yourself who've had amazing careers and leadership journeys of their own. And I was wondering if you could share a leadership lesson from your career.
Oh my goodness, I have so many because I've learned so much.
Pick one or two of your favorites.
Since we were together nearly 25 years ago in the classroom. I think one of them is just you have to trust. You have to trust others to help you learn, to help you grow, and you have to be doing that always. And in that trust, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to admit when you're wrong, or when you've made a mistake, or when you don't know what to do, because it's the wisdom of the crowd that actually can carry you through a career.
And that doesn't make you weak or as a leader show you as...
Oh, I think it's just absolutely the opposite. The CEOs I know who take the best advantages of their collective team are the ones who admit they don't know everything.
Yeah, not the smartest person in the room all the time.
No, definitely not. At least not the most knowledgeable.
Darci, thanks so much for spending the day with us at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Nice to see you.